It's on the monitor.
Just want to say first, yeah, thanks for coming out here at Bsides Tampa. This is my first time at Bsides Tampa, and I was actually born and raised here in Tampa, so it's kind of cool to come back and see the city and see how much it changed over the years. I'm in Huntsville, Alabama now, and it's called Rocket City. And there's like NASA, Boeing, Raytheon, Booz Allen, I mean, you name it, government, it's all out there. There we have competitions like Cyber Cup, the National Cyber Summits like CTF. I took second place there because Booz Allen Hamilton beat us. But going on to my talk here, I'm going to be talking about fraud and identity theft. And I know that everybody that comes out here, we're in cybersecurity, and that's one of the things that the motives behind a lot of this maliciousness or whatever, money or goals driven towards that, from the bad guys, the criminals. I'm not going to call them hackers because they're not. These criminals. So I went out and just last weekend or the other weekend and throughout several years talked to a lot of these criminals and see what they do and keep up with their new tactics and techniques and just kind of figuring out what they do. To stay ahead of the curve that we're putting in to defend against it. And so it's kind of fun hanging out with these gangs like the Bloods and stuff, in the ghetto, hanging out with these guys, and they're flying in like little computer nerdy dudes from all over the country to take courses and lessons on how to steal people's credit cards, use it, get money, and all these things. So I met a buddy of mine several years ago, and he kind of got divorced and stuff, so he's like over in the dark side now and training these people. And I'm like, well, let me go hang out with you and see what you're training them and what they're learning. So this is some stuff about that, and then I'm also going to talk about some of the experiences that I had trying to turn in these people when I'm calling up Visa or the credit card companies or any company and just tell them that, hey, you got a data breach, you got a problem, like you should probably look into it and fix it. And then as for me, I don't know if half this stuff is legal or illegal or whatever, so I have ethics, so I never steal or use anything. And then, why I do it, I got this from one of my friends. He's online. He posted this up on his LinkedIn, is, why I do it. I'm a bloody hacker, I'm proud to be a hacker. I don't mean saving, nor I save people from hackers, I save them from criminals. And there's a bloody difference. You can tell he's like from like the UK or something, bloody and stuff. And y'all might know this guy, his name's Robert. He's the one that supposedly took over the airline when he was flying in a plane and got arrested or something like that with his laptop, or the in-flight entertainment system. Why I kind of do all this and spread the word and preach to, you guys are all, in the field or getting into the field, so y'all know some of the things out there, but I try not to make a bad name for hackers, right? So always criminal hackers. So to start off in some of my research that I was doing, I just picked a subject, any of them. Learn about hacking cars or doing stuff on the radio waves and NFC or exploits or building big data, robot, artificial intelligence, and all that stuff. But when I sat down on this, I put together like a little plan. Okay, so how do I go out and find these credit carders? How do I study them? How do I learn from them? And then what can I do to protect myself against it? So first, you go to Google, do some searches. You find a lot of stuff on social media. I get a lot of dumps. And dumps are basically all of the data. You get usernames, emails, you can find credit card numbers, you find me ID badge that has their picture and everything on. Hey, I got my new badge. So social media is great. Pay spins. Never heard of pay spin? Look it up. And it's like Google. GitHub's great. Find a lot of code on there. Find a lot of code just straight to pay spins automatically. IRC is another really great form of underground chats where you just get a massive amount of dumps through there, and then obviously the dark web and wherever. It's kind of hard to find things on the dark web, and Bitcoins and all this. So free stuff is all about free support. So then explore through the data, look through it, and check it all out and see what's relevant, what's not irrelevant, what's old, what's new. And then I'll even set up websites or IRC servers to try to track these criminals or whatnot from the data that I found already that's already been canceled and all this, but they'll be on there and like looking to try to get on there, but now I can be tracking their like IP address on my website, my server, and they can do things to do reporting. So here's, I went into this IRC channel February 6th, apparently like 3, 4 o'clock of this year. And they have a thing called credit card checker. And I go and used to hang out on this channel. And what they do, what these criminals do is they post a credit card number with the CCV and the expiration date. And it makes a transaction for like a random amount, like $1.82. And then they'll run another credit card for like $1.22 or whatever. And you can get all those, like, and then you start adding them up. And obviously with that also, they also have their name, social security number, phone number, email. So I'm like, oh, let me call up these people because they're testing the cards to see if they're valid or not. So it'll come back saying it was accepted or it was declined or whatever. And then they can figure out the limits on the card. So now they charge $10 at BTC to keep the riprap off their IRC. So I didn't have the thing, but there's their Bitcoin address on the screen up there, so if you want to track down and see all the people that register for their IRC, I'm like, oh. So some of the things that I found that were kind of unique or thinking outside the box. So you can get credit card number, that's the simple part. You can get it from skimming or whatever, but how do you turn that credit card to get money? That's what it's all about. How can I get money off of it? So what they'll go and go on Amazon and find something really cool to buy or whatever. Take the pictures and all the words and verbiage. The ad, basically the ad to buy something, right, on Amazon. And then they'll go over to eBay and post that same ad and as a seller. So then they'll find, there's somebody will go on eBay and like, oh, I want to buy that, that's pretty cool. They buy it. And then they get the eBay purchase order to come in. So then now they go over to Amazon with a stolen credit card and buy the item, put in their address, and have it sent to them. And now they got money coming from eBay, and the seller or the buyer is getting the product and whatnot too. And I just learned, because I got an email, somebody sent me a link the other day, and I don't think it's appropriate to pull up, but now the testing the credit cards also, they're going on Amazon and buying sex toys apparently for random people. Just have them mailed out. So give one in the mail. It's like a big thing, like it made the news like yesterday or the other day. Like people are overwhelmingly getting toys in the mail. And I'm like, huh, because they were just telling me that they're doing it. When they're bored, when they're waiting on hold, when they're calling Capital One or Bank of America or whatever to get themselves added to somebody else's card or wherever they do. Lots of social engineering there. It's kind of funny to hear these guys talk on the phone on them, and they got, you know, some ghetto voices and weird lingos that they're speaking. I'm like, yeah, I can't. But they sit there and order, like, oh, we're gonna order some random toys and send it to people. So other things, how they could get accounts, like people, like your social security number and stuff. They'll put up ads on Craigslist, like, hey, we're hiring, or make $100 an hour, do this, and then, send them an application or whatnot, and then on the application, it's like, oh, tax person, your social security number and all this. So be careful of who you apply in for if you're looking for jobs. If somebody has a job in here, or do background on your company before you even apply, because it might be somebody out there just trying to steal your identity. So in those chat rooms, I'll find those things, and it has their names, and I'll call them up, or I'll call up Visa or the bank. And some of the calls, I have recordings of them, because it takes about 20 minutes for them to pick up, and then after that, you type in the card or whatever, you talk to some lady, and like, all right, here's the card number, here's the expiration date, here's the CVV, here's their address, here's the name, and then they ask, try not to curse, so it's you not, that they ask, well, is it your card? And I'm like, no, I'm just calling to report it stolen. And so you get deactivated before it starts getting used. And they're like, well, you can't deactivate it because it's not your card. You got to be the account holder. And just because, it doesn't mean that it's been stolen or anything. I'm like, really? Because I just told you all the numbers, and it seemed like I got the card obviously stolen. And then that's about 40 minutes into the conversation. As soon as you get their supervisor or wherever to get them to do it. Oh, cool, y'all are working on it. Y'all want to see the other slides? They're not. And then I tell the supervisor, well, by the time that we were talking for this 40 minutes, I got about like 300 other new cards that just came through my screen. So you want me to just start reading out the numbers for you? Is there a way that I could like send them to you? An FBI agent I was speaking with, he told me that I'm only allowed to have, I think, 12 on my person or on my computer or transmit at one time, 12 credit card numbers. So I told them, well, I have to split it up. I only have 12 stolen credit cards. So I was definitely out. When I was in CBS News for it, when they were recording me down in Miami, they had to like black it out. They could only show so many, and it was long. And I think, it was the thing. So, and they're like, no, there's no way for us to accept bulk amount of credit cards that have been stolen or whatnot to cancel them. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Y'all are a multi-billion-dollar company, and we're on the way to tell you how you're losing millions of dollars. It's great. Who cares? Walmart, they have greeters and like some secret shopper dudes that follow you around and make sure you don't shoplift, because that's like the #1 thing that companies is shoplifting. I'm like, no, they don't even care. I'm like, all right, whatever. So, so I thought about it for a little bit. So then I'm like, well, I got the people's addresses and their names and phone numbers, whatever. So I'm gonna call them up. So I call these people up, and I'm like, hey, I found your card. This is the number, ending in whatever. And they're like, who are you? How do you know my stuff? I'm like, I'm just some hacker on the internet. Like, oh, and some people like, I'm calling the cops and they hang up or whatever. And then some people are really nice. They're like, oh, thank you so much. And then they'll give me a call back, and say, I have my number. I'll hide my phone number or email. And they're like, hey, you saved me because I seen the next day. I didn't really take you that serious, and I didn't cancel the card immediately. But the next day, I started seeing like transactions for like thousands of dollars on my bank, and then obviously I closed it. But you contacted me and discovered that my card was stolen before the banks were able to discover it. And I thought that's interesting, and I'm like, well, cool. So obviously you have a bank and online, you can see your transactions and what's going on. So do you mind sending me where you shopped the last week or so? Or just give me your transactions, I don't care about the amounts. Just tell me all the places that you shop. And they're like, oh yeah, sure, that's cool, you sound like legitimate, cool, online hacker. They just randomly telling you about your credit card number. So I take a small sample size. I'm just picking random people, like some person will be out in Alaska, some after I convince like 5 or 10 of them to give me their stuff, I start matching them up. I'm like, oh, okay. So they all went to Park and Fly. This is a true story. This is like 4 years ago. And I'm like, okay, so they all, what's in common, right? So these are all your things. You shopped at Walmart, you did this, but it has to match all. So I'm like, okay, so that makes sense in my head that company must have a data breach. This dude had all their credit cards, and they all shopped at this place. And so I called the company. Well, you get some guy named it. He don't even, I don't even know if you're allowed to tell people credit card numbers over the phone, and you got to think about that too, because there's the PCI, right? All credit card data in transit has to be encrypted. I believe that's the law, or is it $50,000 fine or something like that per incident? And the government doesn't go after any companies, even if they have data breaches, they don't get fined. I think they should. There's not a lot of enforcement for this. It's really no part of the government that does enforcement. I guess it's your servants that do it. I don't know. We're probably just thinking Donald Trump. So I called the company, and it's like pulling my hair out, trying to tell them that they have a data breach. And eventually I get to like the IT guy, and he runs the database. So I'm like, I'll send you some cards, you can match them up in your database and see if you have them. I can only send you 12. It's like, well, he gets it, yeah, those match in our database. But that doesn't confirm that we have a data breach. I mean, you could have just picked some random credit card numbers and they happen to be in our database. So then, like, 6 or 7 months later, you see them now saying, oh, we had a data breach like a year ago. We didn't know about it. So I see a lot of these companies, it takes them years to discover that they have data breaches. Take Sony, Ashley Madison, I think they were in there for like 4 years, 2 years, something like that. And I don't know how much data was from the Sony thing, like terabytes, like 50 terabytes or something, I don't remember. I don't know how fast y'all's internet is. I got Google Fiber at my place, pretty fast. But it's gonna take me longer than a day to download 50 terabytes. So what are they doing all day? So, so on this, so let's talk about some of the other things. The shoplifting, fraud, refunds. So IRS, yes. This is where some really good money was at. So when you get somebody's identity, their social security number, they've been doing credit repairs also. They'll fix somebody's credit, get you a nice 790 something score, and take out like a $30,000 credit limit and go buy cars. But businesses now, they start building fake businesses. They'll go and, well, it's not really fake, they actually have the business identification number, the BIN and stuff, and they'll file people's taxes within that company and get reimbursed on their stuff and say that person worked here and they paid them like $50,000 that year, whatever, some random amount. And the government will pay them. And it's hilarious. And you ever try fixing that? I've had this done to me. So I bring it up because a company actually filed twice and say that made X amount of amount. It was like $37,000, 972 and 51 cents for that year. But they filed it twice. So it showed that I made $60-something thousand or something that year. So I go to the IRS, I'm like, look, I'm not paying, and I'm on like those 1099s or wherever I have to pay my own taxes as a consultant. So I'm like, it's like, I pay a lot of money. It's like $20,000, $30,000. And I'm like, but I only made like $30,000. Why I pay all, I should be paying like $5,000. So I called them up and they're like, hey, you gotta contact the company that filed incorrectly on you. And I went in person to the IRS. I set up an appointment, drove down there, talked to the lady, showed her, like, yeah, it doesn't make sense, it's the same amount. Like obviously, because it's a lie. It was a fake thing. They're like, well, we can't fix that. You gotta have the company refile and fix it. That filed it on. I'm like, the company is fake. There's no such company. It's already been gone. It's closed. It just opened it just to do this. It's like, I don't know. So it's still on my taxes. I haven't paid it. It's still there. So I'll probably get know if we could do. You know, it's too long. I noticed it on my tax. It's actually, it happened 5 or 6 years ago or something like that. No, 8 years ago. And it's still on my taxes from 8 years. And they're like, well, just wait 10 years. And if they don't collect the money from you, the IRS, you don't have to pay it. So, whatever, a couple more years. So I asked these members of the blood, their gang, well, how can you send somebody to jail? Because I'm like, I could probably go to jail because I didn't pay these taxes, right? So I'm like, well, what other things can they do with stolen identities to put you in jail? So they're like, oh my gosh. So they all drive really nice cars that they rent from like Enterprise or wherever, using these stolen credit cards. Oh, they make fake IDs with their pictures, and it's really good. And they set up, before I forget, they set up these things called the CPN, credit privacy number, something from 1979 or 78. It's something that's supposed to be more secure than your social security number, and it's a backup or something, and you can activate it by calling the government and get a whole credit line just on your CPN number. So they sit there all day and they can credit underneath your credit as a new credit, and you don't even know that it exists. With that said, they go out and rent cars and use your ID. It doesn't matter. They put fake addresses or whatever. And they're like airports. So anytime that they're done with the car, if they haven't sold it, because they'll go buy a brand new car and then sell it at a used car lot, and then that dude just bought a stolen car. And they get the money. So they're like, we hide and put all kinds of stuff in these rental cars when we're done with them. We park them at the airport. And they're like, we put guns, drugs, all kinds of stuff in the back seat or wherever. So if you're ever at the airport, you know, you gotta look around, you might find some free stuff in cars. And then if the cops, I mean, the cops are gonna eventually find the car, or someone's gonna call it, it's gonna get towed, whatever, and they're like, there's guns, it's been used in a murder, whatever. And the cops call you up. They're like, hey, you rented this car and you left it at the airport with these guns. You're so stupid. You're a stupid criminal. You be on that show. You're like, but officer, it wasn't mine. I've never seen it before in my life. I'm like, yeah, that's what they all say. They do it. So yeah, so they rent cars, put stuff in it, and park it under your ID. That's great. So, y'all get emails? You're a beneficiary. This notification is from the Federal Reserve Dallas District. Cool. Your name is enlisted among the beneficiaries whose fund is approved for payment by the Board of Governors. I'm not gonna read it all. Thing is, I look at this, it's like, okay, cool, they got a routing number and an account number, there's a bank. You know, that's like giving me a check. I could use their own stuff against them. And there's a number, and I'm sure it all works. Like, you can call up this person and verify this email that I got. But there's misspellings, like source, not sure the source. Oh, organizations on the bottom. I don't know if you see it, it's all red and stuff, but yeah, they totally misspelled it. It has an S instead of a Z. I don't even know how to spell organization, but I'm sure that that's wrong. Could be. Well, it was Robert Stephen Kaplan, whoever that is. And then I get them, but we got to communicate with them by cell phone, SMS, or WhatsApp. And I love getting the ones from, I get the FBI letters all the time in my email. And they're like, reply back to our Gmail account. So I troll them. Like, I waste their time so they can't go and hurt other people and victims. You'd be surprised at how many ding-dongs fall for these emails all day. Y'all think y'all are hearing about social engineering and clickbaiting and you're getting into companies and stuff. Well, they're just doing this to random people and old people and young people and just getting their information and using it against them. So there's some things you can look at. Obviously, I don't think any of you guys will respond and click on these things, but maybe you should, as a cybersecurity person, think of your ethics. You could be helping that victim by tying that person up that they can't go and attack other people. I'll reply back to their email. Like, hey, I got a Google Voice number. I'll give them my phone number. Here, call out. You can make a video later. them, waste their time, you know, tell them to send you pictures or whatever, and they gotta make long distance phone calls, like they call you from like other countries and stuff. It's like, you know, that costs money. I mean, yeah, they're using probably stolen credit cards to do it, but still you're wasting their time. And then who are you gonna report it to? Like, you're gonna get called like cops, they don't even use a computer. You know, it's horrible to report, and like I said, there's really no, it's like a victimless crime also, the stealing credit cards, and it's hard to prosecute. Because I asked them, I work with FBI and other agencies, and they're like, well, it's hard to prosecute because we need somebody to file the initial report. And something has to be lost or deprived or something like that to be considered stolen. And technically nobody's losing any money. So, I mean, I don't know if y'all ever had like a charge on your car and you're like, I didn't do that. You just called the bank and you're like, oh, we'll remove it off your bank. Don't worry about it. Here's the money back. And in the bank, they write it off to the government. The government's like, oh yeah, y'all are federally insured or back, and here's your money back. So who's missing out? I don't know who's losing money. Maybe it's Donald Trump. I don't know. But somebody's definitely losing money, and especially when you buy and sell stuff online and they scam you and you don't get the product, or somebody sent the product, but then they had a refund back on their credit card, and then now they lost the money from the thing that they bought. You know, it's you know, people are losing money, and it's a billions of dollars. I mean, you just got to think. I don't know if you ever look at the numbers. They have the data breach reports and stuff, but you never really look at like how much money is actually being lost in these credit card things and all these things. And I think it's a serious issue. So, with that said, I don't know what time it is. It's getting close, and I know y'all are thirsty. But let me leave you with this. You know, there's that famous saying, I can't figure out who invented it, because I said it a long time ago, and other people are saying it now. People just put their names on it. So there's two types of companies, right? Those that have been hacked, and those that don't know that they've been hacked. Y'all heard that before? Not? I also say with your credit cards, you know, so, you know, treat all your data, if you become in our industry as a cybersecurity or whatever, at any company, I'm sure you deal with some kind of, you know, even if you have employees at your company, you got their social security numbers. If you sell stuff, you got credit cards. You're storing something at your company that has to do with, you know, fraud, identity theft, and all this stuff. So treat all the data that can be used, you know, as your own. Like, what if it was your stuff there? You know, how would you treat it? And even when I make calls, like, to the bank, and they want me to tell them my credit card number over the phone, I tell them no. I'm like, look, I can't. It's against the law. You're asking me to break the law. It's not encrypted in my phone. I got a hack RF1 over there. We can listen to your phone calls. We can go put up a little tower, and you know, it's been done. So no, just stop doing it. Tell everybody else. Stop doing it. Treat the data as your own. Put some honeypots out there. I put, you know, like I said, I got some fake websites out there that I'm attracting these carders and fraud people to come and spend time on my site. You know, put things out there, emails, and then stay above the curve and learn. Learn about all the new tactics and techniques and stuff that these people are doing, and learn about the seriousness of the problem so we can stop it. I'll leave you on that.